Good evening. Welcome to Bleav in Kansas City Sports. I am your host, Darren Smith. And with me this week to preview the big matchup this Sunday, where the Green Bay Packers will be traveling to Kansas City and the Chiefs will be hosting the Packers in a late Sunday afternoon ball game at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm sorry, GEHA or GEHA inside Arrowhead Stadium. I'm joined by one of the hosts of Bleav in Packers, Mr. Ahman. Now, I know you're wondering why does that name sound so familiar. Well, if you're like me, if you're a nerd like myself, you were a big fan of this gentleman when he was in high school. When he was the top running back in high school, his freshman year, he rushed for over 1,000 yards and helped lead that team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, to their second national title following the year that they won the year before. Of course, he was in the backfield with Lawrence Phillips and, of course, Tommy Frazier. And then he also led that team to a national title 2 years later and had a nice long career in the NFL. Played, I Bleav, 6 or 7 years with the Green Bay Packers, so he knows all about them inside out. Bleav he's played not only with Aaron Rodgers, but I think he actually played with Aaron Rodgers as well, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Maybe
with
his
Brett. Yeah, I
rookie.
play with Brett and Aaron. Yep.
Yeah, so Ahmad, I want to welcome you once again to the show, and just for our audience here in Kansas City, just give us just a little bit more background. I know I kind of gave him a 30,000 mile view because I mean I'm just that guy, I'm a geek, but man, like I said
Right.
before we even came on air, man, just a huge fan of yours, man. Well, since our high school days, as I mentioned before, I didn't realize you were just a year older than me, but man, I followed you from high school all the way through your career, man. So it's a pleasure having you on this
Yeah,
evening.
man, I appreciate the love there, Darren, and having me on your show here. But yeah, I was right up the street in Omaha, Nebraska. That's was about a 3.5 hour drive from KC. And actually, Mom, I was just telling you off mic here. We were my mom's family and my dad's family got family down in that area of Kansas City, Missouri side, and the Kansas City, Kansas side. That's my mom's side of the family, and then my dad's side of the family is Kansas City, Missouri side. So it's a lot of a lot of family down there. But yeah, just being in the Midwest, coming from where I came from, and I was born in Omaha, and went out to Los Angeles to kind of develop unknowingly my talent in sports, and then came back to Omaha when I was a freshman in high school, a 13-year-old, still wet behind the ears, but didn't realize how the competitiveness in Los Angeles area, the city part, would accelerate my athletic development as a young kid. I didn't see it until I moved back to Omaha, and I remember my first little league tryout. I decided not to play high school football because I was like, those guys are way too big. So I had a little brains in that brawn of muscle and being an athletic adolescent there. So I played little league football for the North Omaha Boys Club Bears, and we had a tryout. And so I was nothing. I was used to that because it was some tryouts for the teams that I played for in the Los Angeles area, and I played at Baldwin Hills and I played at Culver City, the Culver City Lancers, and so at this tryout in North Omaha, we're out there in our shoulder pads, we're doing running drills, we're doing catching the ball drills, and then we get to the tackle drills, and that's where I have my brother. He was coaching me up, showing me what to do, what the drill was like, and how to wrap up. And I kind of knew, but he was just kind of just refreshing me. And it's for him being a big brother. It was just like what, I get to coach my little brother, so I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna do this a little bit. I'm like, coach, I'll be nice to say. That I didn't say much. I let my brother coach me up. I was like, bro, like, some of this in my head, I'm like, I know this already. Like, I got it. Okay. But got the drills going and just went I just, from the competition I was in California, like I said, I just did what I knew. I was hitting guys, wrapping up properly, hitting the guys hard, and then getting up, shaking, picking them off the ground and say, "Hey, man, good hit," and be humble about it. But then every drill was like that, where I basically came in the drill and just blew the guy up, made the tackle, but then was humble about it, helped him off the ground. And so between the hard hitting that I was doing and the coach, and them seeing me with the good sportsmanship, the coach was like, "Where did this kid come from?" They're like, "What? Who are you?" I'm like, "Man, I'm Nicky Paul's little brother, Ahman Green." And he's like, "Where you been?" I'm like, "I just moved back from California." He's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "You are amazing." He's like, "You gonna play here, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I came here." So it just, from that attitude and my gameplay, just obviously was at a high point, which I didn't realize as a kid. But then once I got to my sophomore year at North, I started as a sophomore, rushed for 1,000 yards. I transferred to Omaha Central, where I had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, along with my good friend, best friend Damian Morrow. We both had back-to-back 1,000 seasons in the same backfield, offensive backfield, at Omaha Central for those 2 years, 90, 93, and 94 seasons. And then my freshman year was in 95. And then that's where you kind of, when everybody kind of knows where Ahman Green came on the scene nationally, into sports books and ESPN and Monday Night Football on from there, Nebraska, and then on to Seattle and then Green Bay.
Well, I will say this because, like I said, some of us are nerds, so we knew, I knew that you were a first team All American in high school. So,
All
your
right.
senior year. But I do want to ask one question about the college. So, when you were being recruited by Tom Osborne,
Hmm.
obviously you being the top running back, high school running back in the state, not only the state but obviously the country. Did they? I
Hmm.
mean, did they like give you an assurances as it was when they were recruiting you about where you could end up at on the depth chart or playing time and things like that? Even though they had Lawrence Phillips there, and of
Right.
course he didn't get into his trouble until obviously you had gotten there or going into the year. Of course, if I remember correctly, you played in the first game, so I know you was getting. I think I thought you might have rushed for over 100 yards in your first game. Even though I know you didn't start, but I know you got some playing time
Yeah.
that first game. And people, I remember the broadcast they were talking about. They were like he was the top running back here in the state and in the country and stuff like that. But what how was the recruiting
It,
part of that like for you?
it was for me recruiting. It was fun. I kind of was that kid that was a little ahead of the game. My mom taught me about goal setting my junior year, and so I knew how to set goals. And so by the time my senior year came along, and I started getting recruited by Georgia, Nebraska, Alabama, USC, UCLA, Michigan, Notre Dame, Idaho, all this from the small schools to the big schools. I had a game plan, so I made this chart. I took some notebook paper and I made this chart, and I had all the top schools, the top 25, and then I put stars by the schools that were like my top five. And then of them top five, then those top fives, I was talking to them. And so in the recruiting process, once I got, when I started to get visited by the coaches, if it was the recruiting coordinator or the head coach or assistant coach themselves, and to my mom's, I say to her, what she saw out of all the colleges recruiting me, when she saw Tom Osborne walk in our house when we had Notre Dame, so Lou Holtz, Greg Moeller at Michigan, Dick Tomey at Arizona, and and Joe Paterno at Penn State.
Yeah.
Um, Tom Osborne was the only coach that showed up to my house, and so that right there impressed my mom. She was like, "You're going to Nebraska." I said, "Dad," I said, "Mom, hold on. I got three more visits to go after this." But in that conversation, when that kind of came to her, that was her aha moment for her. But in that conversation, my dad asked the question, that same question you just asked me about where is my son going to be at on the depth chart, or where will my son know where he'll get an opportunity to play? And pretty simple and very matter of factly, Tom Osborne says, well, if Amon comes to campus and he obviously hits the books, he has good grades, and then he studies that playbook where we have the confidence to put him in. I'm not going to promise that he's going to be the starter, but what I will say, if he knows the playbook, he will have time to play on that football field, and that's all my dad wanted to hear. He was like basically saying, "Your son is going to have a fair shot to play as long as he gets himself prepared to play." And
Right.
he knew that from my upbringing between him and my mom and my brothers and my sister and my family, that I knew how to get prepared to be ready to play football. And so that for him was just okay. It's just going to be a matter of time. I know my son is going to be ready his freshman year to play football at the college level.
Man, that's crazy. I could talk to you about Nebraska all night long, especially your college
Me-
friends. And
we could.
I will say this, man, because a lot of people talk about who was the greatest college football team, and a lot of people going to the 2001, I think, Miami Hurricanes, and I'm sitting like, well, they did lose the national title, and one of the players that I actually compared to you, who was a stud freshman running back, is Maurice Claret when he was at Ohio State.
Yes.
Just looking at some of the similar backgrounds. And one, now I don't know about you, but I always thought he ran angry. But that was the impression I got of you when you ran. Because one, you were just so bulk. You were so 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 masculine, I guess, as a freshman or whatever. Your body
Right.
was kind of developed. It was like, when you ran, you hit the hole hard and everything like that. So I was like, man, and I saw a lot of him in you. Well, I saw a lot of you and him when
Right.
he was a freshman. But I always tell people, to me, the greatest college football team was that '95. Was that '95? Because one, y'all ran through everybody, and then the way y'all demolished Florida. I think it was
Yes.
like 61-8 or something, and
62 to 24.
yeah,
62 to
and Tommy
24.
Frazier breaking them 8 tackles. I was like, oh, I'm like,
That was
I've
yeah.
never seen anything like that before or since. I'm like, if
Ever.
that's not the greatest football team ever, I don't know what is. So
Yeah, and I'll tell you a quick story before we get into KC and Green Bay real quick. So I
yeah.
met a while ago now, probably like 8 9 years ago. We're visiting a friend in Las Vegas, and my friend played a little bit of college football at Tennessee, and so we're going back and forth. He's still bitter because we beat Tennessee my junior year for the co national title that year. But anyway, so we're talking about that, and then he's like, you know, man, y'all team, you couldn't have been the Hurricane team from the '80s or whatever, and I'm like. I said, dude, we were the best. We were voted. This is at the time ESPN put out the best college football teams in college football history, and we were number one, ranked number one, and they just released that. And so my friend didn't know that, and I was like, let's bet on it. He's like, what you want to bet on it? I said, let's bet a dinner on it. We're in Vegas. I'll pick any restaurant in here because I know I'm going to win. He said, no, you're not. I'm like, hey, I pulled out my phone, I googled it,
Make
and
that
typed.
bet.
I said, make the bet. We made the bet. I went on my phone and said, boom, showed them the little website on ESPN where it said Nebraska Cornhuskers 1995. And then to put the icing on the cake, it said the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers led by outstanding freshman Ahman Green. That was on the first line. So I was like, I say, let's go to Roof Chris right around the corner steakhouse, bro. I
I
want a
know
good
that's
steak.
right.
I was like, I want a steak tonight.
I know that's right. See, man, and I tell people you got to know your history, man. See, and I knew that way back when. Again, we're joined on Believe in Kansas City Sports with Darren Smith, with the host of Believe in Packers, my green, whose co-host is also Mike Wale. And so
Mike
again,
Wall. Mike
Mike
Wall.
Wall, Mike Wall,
Yep.
I
Yep.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. And so very grateful for your time. I want to jump right into things. First and foremost, obviously, the Packers 7-1, coming off of a bye week, well, a mini bye after the Thursday night
Correct.
win against the Arizona Cardinals, knocking them off from the last of the unbeatens. Of course, they're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs coming in the Arrowhead this Sunday, 3:25 kickoff. The Chiefs are coming off their Monday night win, 20-17 against the New York Football Giants. I'll be, of course, in attendance in this game covering the Chiefs, but wanted to get your initial impressions on this matchup. Obviously, the big news coming in this week and coming to this week's ball game is Aaron Rodgers testing positive from COVID. He is unvaccinated. Will miss this game. Could potentially miss the following game against the Seattle Seahawks. But this is the second, actually probably the third time that these teams will, well, the second time these quarterbacks would have
Hmm.
missed playing one another 2 years ago when Patrick was injured a week before the Packers came to Arrowhead, and then of course both teams would have had a chance to play each other in the Super Bowl, but
Hmm.
Tampa Bay had other ideas in the NFC Championship game last year. This time, of course, COVID knocks out Aaron Rodgers in this game. So, what is your initial thoughts when you about this matchup, and of course, when you heard that Aaron Rodgers had contracted COVID and would be out for this game?
Yeah. So first up, the matchup, and it's a magical. I say it's a really good matchup. You got two teams that pretty much before what we just found out are even teams. They got two great quarterbacks. They got play callers that definitely understand the game and know how to manipulate a defense, by doing certain motions. I love what Eric Bieniemy does. Shout out to him. He recruited me. He was at Colorado. He recruited me from Omaha Central. So shout out to them, EB, the other EB that I know. Great guy and a
I
great
wish I'd have
play.
known. I wish I'd known it before because I talked to EB today at the presser, so I would have mentioned. I would have thrown that in there.
Well, I know you'll see him again, but tell him I said what's up,
I
and tell
will.
him, hey, if he needs a coach, let me know.
I'll tell him that.
Yeah, but no, he watching him develop as an offensive play caller is just I love it because he's coming from a program. You go back to his background. He's from Cali, and then
Yeah.
but he went to Colorado. He comes from an option offense in Colorado at that time, and then now he played in the NFL for a few years with San Diego. But then went into the coaching ranks, started recruiting, and I believe that he was at Colorado. He recruited and coached there, but then now he's coaching in the NFL. Been there for 15, 20, almost 20 years now, but now he's taking an OC and now he's getting, the talk about, so he's going to be a head coach one day. And you're seeing why, because obviously to do what they've done to bring along that Chiefs organization since Andy Reid has taken over, it's been great. And Andy Reid is a player's coach. I've been knowing this for a long time. When I was playing and he was still coaching, I had the opportunity to get coached by him in the Pro Bowl. And my some of my former teammates that played with him before they came to Philly or from Philly coming into Green Bay or vice versa, they were like, man, Eddie, Andy was, man, he loved the run game. I remember Dorsey talking about Andy when he was a part of the Packers organization when they won a Super Bowl way back, in 1996. And so having two good-minded coaches that know how to get their players buy-in, but then also know the game of football. Eric having to actually played on the field. I don't know if Andy ever played in his time, but he definitely knows the game of football by knowing to get that buy-in from his players and just the play designs that the enemy has, the crazy motions running behind the quarterback, and it's the same thing I see with Matt LaFleur. They have those offenses to do that to basically, I say, kind of manipulate the defense, like I said earlier, but also kind of confuse them to see who's what doing what and when and where. Because when you have Aaron Jones motioning out the backfield, you thinking, okay, he's not getting the ball, he's just going out there on decoy, but all of a sudden it's a screen pass to him on the edge, and now you outnumbered because you got a good running back and you have two receivers blocking in front of him to get him 10, 15 yards. Or when the Green Bay came out to KC a couple years ago, I Bleav Aaron Jones had a big screen run for about
Yeah.
80 yards. So it's those type of offenses that now OCs are developing to, because they know it's good defenders out there. These guys are now developing, obviously, just as good or better than my time on the field, where you got linebackers that run like DBs and hit like Mack trucks. You got D linemen that are really technical and can get in the backfield when they want to, like a Kenny Clark. So when you have that, you got to, so as an offense coordinator, you got to be creative. You got to not show your cards before that ball is snapped, so the defensive side of the ball doesn't know where they're going. So to have a guy like Pat Mahomes, to have the run game, you can almost switch out any running back. Darren Williams a couple of years ago, and then Edwards-Helaire right now, and he's injured. But you have another D Williams in there, so you have those phenomenal athletes. And I can't even, I mean, Kelsey, Hill, guy,
Hardman.
Mako Hardeman. Yeah, you got that speed everywhere. You can have a lot of fun. And right now, the only one thing with Casey's offense is now people are kind of catching up on how to defend them. They're not. I don't think they kind of found something to stump them, but they're players, they're competitors. I think they're going to get past this, and this is obviously defensively. There's going to be one heck of a test, but the way of attrition when now the other team doesn't have one of their main players, so Aaron Rodgers is gone. So to me, right now, this obviously doesn't look good, only because that defense for the Packers is going to be on that field a long time. And try to stop KC. You can only slow them down so much. I mean, even though like in these last few games they've had their own little mistakes that kept them from winning. That's where they're sitting at 4-4 right now. But it's more mistakes that they've done internally and not teams forcing them into some things. Bad decisions with throwing the ball like Mahomes that has done and has admitted to his mistakes. So I think they're going to start cleaning up. And it's a long season. It's only week 8 coming up here. Got a lot of football left, so it's going to be a great game. But right now, the team that's going to it's going to be like the team that is right now. Like, all right, what do we got it? We already adjusted our game plan last week because we didn't have everybody we needed in the game against Arizona. We had Devontae out, we had Lazard out, but now we got the main, basically got the shot caller out. We got Aaron Rodgers out. So what is the thing is who's going to step up for that position? Is it Ben Kirk going to come off the bench, wherever they have back there, and lead that team to a victory? Because right now a victory is going to be really tough down there in Arrowhead Stadium.
Well, Ahmad, this is what's concerning for me now. Like you mentioned, they were without their three top offensive weapons. Well, at the receiver position and tight end last week against the Cardinals, uh, Aaron Rodgers was, but they found a way to get Dillon and Jones involved, and they rushed for 151 yards. They held the ball for almost 38 minutes, so you kept Kyler Murray and them on the sideline. And then by the time they did get a chance to come in, they're kind of rushing, trying to get things done because not a lot of time is on their side. Obviously, this week if you get those players back, those receivers and tight ends back, and now you're bringing in Jordan Love, you could essentially still have that same game plan and run the football. But I'm pretty sure Jordan Love. Yeah, I mean, granted, we haven't seen much of him. I think maybe a couple of
Hmm.
preseason games and
Yep.
what you've seen in college. So, but he knows the play because he's been there for a couple of years now. He knows the playbook, and obviously just the opportunity. It's hard when you have a quarterback like Rodgers that's always on the field, so you don't get a chance to really get out there and work with the first team. Now this week he'll get his chance.
Hmm.
So I mean, speaking with Spagnola today, Melvin Ingram, they obviously haven't seen much of him, so it's real hard to see on film on how you're going to defend them, because last year they prepared for Tyrod Taylor with the Chargers, and then 10 seconds before kickoff you're facing Justin Herbert. So when I
Right.
posed that, yeah, so when I posed that question to Spags, he told me that a situation like that, granted they do have 5 days versus 15 seconds,
Hmm.
you're pretty much defending the scheme, so to speak. But again, that so I guess they defend the scheme of what the head coach might call versus what Jordan Love might do. But one of the problems that Kansas City has had this season is they've had a problem with defending running quarterbacks.
Hmm.
Just Jalen Hurts was looking like Deshaun Watson after when the Chiefs played him in Philadelphia. So I
Yeah.
mean, with Jordan Love getting an opportunity, and of course this is a big opportunity for him. How much pressure is he under to not only perform well but to look good? Because remember, Green Bay, your former organization, drafted him to be the future of this
Right.
franchise. So how much pressure is on him coming into Sunday's game?
I say right now the pressure is just perception. It's more from us. It's from the fans. It's from we're the media. We're talking about the actual perceived perception of pressure that he is under. So, but the way I know how players, good players, work off each other. Jordan is a good player. Aaron Rodgers is a good player. The biggest thing is just as a player, all he needs to know is what he needs to do. Is
Mhm.
playbook and stick to that and not worry about listening. Hope he doesn't listen to us. Hope he doesn't listen to ESPN. Hope he doesn't watch
No,
Fox
no, no.
Sports.
Listen
Yeah,
to us. Listen to
yeah,
us
yeah.
now.
Well, hey, listen. What I mean in the player sense, but yeah, listen to us overall. But have that mindset. You know what? Zone all that out. Let's play football. But there, he potentially can have that pressure on him. Like, man, I'm replacing one of the best quarterbacks in our game right now. And he's playing at another MVP level. If he thinks of all that stuff, yes, you could have that added pressure on himself. But as a smart player, you wouldn't do that because you want to play well. And for me personally, I would literally clear my mind of the what I call the white noise, so I could just focus on playing the game I've been playing since I was 6 years old. And that's how Jordan Love could go out there and be successful on the football field.
Kansas City went from a 1 point favorite, which I'm still kind of shocked about that based on the record, to an 8 point favorite, obviously with the absence of Aaron Rodgers. So I guess my question to you would be, if you're, one, I try to advise Chiefs fans, even though you thought that Kansas City would blow out the Giants and they'll get things back on track, they escaped out with a 3 point win. So just because Aaron Rodgers isn't there doesn't mean that that you might live up to that 8 point, because you were 10.5 point favorite last week against the Giants, and it didn't work out in that manner. You got the win, but but it was by 3 points. So if you're so but before we dive deep into this, I do want to ask you your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers being unvaccinated, and if you were a teammate and you knew he was unvaccinated, the fact that he going to pressers and being on the field post game, up on Kyler Murray, without the mask, stuff like that. How would you, if you were a teammate of Aaron Rodgers, currently feel knowing that he's unvaccinated and now he's tested positive for COVID, and now the NFL investigating whether or not the Packers have violated some protocols and stuff.
Right. I say as a player, or I say a teammate, or even a coach. That's where the positions I could be right now. I would look at it as, what, it's something that, with the whole vaccination thing. Let's just talk about that. It's this whole, it has legs and arms itself.
Yeah.
So with that, it's like, you had a choice of to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated. But obviously from an NFL standpoint, it's in the rules that if you're not, you got to obviously separate yourself from doing things and just be. He's a smart guy, so you would have thought he would have been a little bit wiser to have a mask on, to not go partying, because I saw on social media he was doing, he was at a party in his John Wick costume, which was great, but he's not, being smart just because of the spread of, and so just on that level, outside of that, he's a grown man. He made a decision not to make the take the vaccine, but then from a team standpoint, not reporting it or reporting it as if he was vaccinated. They just got to get ready for the repercussion if that was something they did tell the NFL that Aaron was
Well, I will say
vaccinated.
this, like, the Packers and the league knew that he hadn't been vaccinated because I know
Oh, okay.
he applied for some exemption because of some immunization stuff he thought he had he thought he was taking would be good, and they said no, he was on the unvaccinated list. But and now they're giving him a little leeway as it relates to preseason, but of course the regular season is a whole different deal where
Right.
he's all out and about and meeting with the media and stuff like that without a mask on. So
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
gotta be like he's always trying to say, or not him trying to say, but we say for him, he's the smartest guy in the room. He had to be the smartest guy in the room, in that making that decision. But also,
plus he
then
also
still
lied.
right. That's what they and then that's what they're investigating. You gotta, yeah, like I said, if you said you're vaccinated, you gotta be vaccinated. You cannot say that. That's all. I wouldn't, harp on. I'm not going to harp on, a grown man making a decision, but you just got to know what the repercussion is going to be. If I was his teammate.
All right, we're joined by Ahman Green, Bleav in Kansas City Sports. He is the host of Bleav in Packers. The Green Bay Packers coming to this weekend's ball game where the Chiefs lead the all-time series 7 games, 7 wins, 4 losses, and 1 tie. Packers, though, they've won the last 2 ball games against the Kansas City Chiefs. The last time they came to Kansas City, they won 31-24. Now, mind you, that was without Patrick Mahomes in that ball game.
Hmm.
Andy Reid is 5-6. Is another team that he has a losing record to, so he's going to be looking to go to 500 in this game. Patrick Mahomes is third in the league in passing with over 2,300 passing yards. Of course, Aaron Rodgers only 1,894, but again, he's out of this ball game. Again, you mentioned Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, is also a good receiver coming out the backfield. Last week he had seven catches for 110 scrimmage yards, and a rushing touchdown last week. So
Hmm.
how valuable, which I mean, I'm talking to running backs. I know I know how you're going to feel about that, but how valuable
Yeah.
is this running game going to be for Jordan Love to, I guess, kind of settle him down before he tries to start making big plays throwing the football?
It's going to be very valuable to get AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones going, and then as along with getting if it's going to be Mercedes Lewis or DeGoria into the play scheme because we lost Tunyon last year with last weekend with an ACL tear.
Yeah.
So getting those 2 people, 4 people in, which they're already good at getting AJ and Aaron Jones going. So now it's getting new players, which they did last week very well against a good, solid Arizona defense. So getting them in the game again, now is going to comfort, like you said, bring Jordan's Love comfort level down to just sitting back in that pocket. And this, if I'm a teammate, I'm a coach, I say just imagine, just reminisce to your days back in college when you're at Nevada in that pocket and relaxed and making the throws that you're making to get you where you got right now. That's the mindset you got to be in because we're going to help you with Aaron Jones, with AJ Dillon, and with the tight end, with receivers that are back on the field. We're going to help you get in position as teammates. They should be like, you know what, we got your back. We're going to catch the balls. We're going to make the plays that we need to make sure you could go out there be yourself. Kind of like I know what they're telling Mac Jones. Just do your job. We're
Hmm.
going to take care of everything else out in Patriots.
What do you? I'm now again. I don't cover the Packers. I know you're part of the franchise history and stuff like that. So, I mean, what can fans expect? Do you know a lot about Jordan Love, or have you had a chance to see him practice or anything of
Yeah,
that nature?
Yeah, I don't know enough about Jordan. I know that obviously, hasn't played a whole lot, but I know in terms of pro ball. But from what I've seen on film, what I've seen in practice, what I've seen in preseason games, and the few games he had right there last year, he has a very comfortable, I say, mannerism about him in that pocket. When he drops back, he stands tall. And then he knows he has a good sense of when he needs to get out the pocket and run, or just get out the pocket, get the ball thrown, out of bounds. So he's not going to really make a whole lot of mistakes. And that's something that's been, I say, a common theme ever since my playing days with quarterbacks, not not putting the ball in a bad position for themselves as a team, throwing it out of bounds or taking a sack. Because I know Brett now every now and then he would be the wild gunslinger and make and make some mistakes because he figures he could get the ball in there. But for Aaron, he's a little bit more concise. He's a little bit more deliberate where he'd rather throw the ball out of bounds or even take the sack, live to the next play. That was something Mike McCarthy used to preach his rookie years, live to the next play. So that has kind of stuck with him. And that's why you see him year over year having a low interception to touchdown ratio. And then So that's obviously transferred over to any young quarterback that's come in. So Jordan Love definitely has those traits. He's going to stand high in the pocket so he can look around. He's over 6 feet tall quarterback, so he'll be able to be in there confidently. It's just going to be interesting for what I'll see from the Chiefs, because I think any rookie quarterback coming off the bench as a decent defensive coordinator, I'm putting pressure on him. I'm gonna put a lot of bodies in his path, so it doesn't make it easy for him to get comfortable in the pass game.
It's so funny you were talking about what you were talking about, Brett Favre, and then you kind of switch over to Aaron Rodgers. I'm just thinking like that's exactly the conversation that we've been having with Patrick and gunslinging and trying to make things
Right.
happen and take the sack instead of throwing it. Like literally, when you said, I'm like. That's what I talked to Patrick about after every loss. Like, man, why didn't you just take the sack in Baltimore, live to see another down instead of throwing an interception? Same thing
Yeah.
in Washington football. I'm like, so literally what you're saying, I'm like, this dude's been spying on my pressers and stuff. So good stuff on that one. So I
Yeah.
do want to ask you though, because look, one of the things that works in the Packers' favor against the Chiefs, if Kansas City, they've been making turnovers. Patrick has had a turnover, at least an interception, in the
Hmm.
last 6 ball games. So the Chiefs are underwater when it comes to giveaways and takeaways. They've taken the ball away only 8 times, but they've given the ball away 19 times, including 10 interceptions and of course 9 fumbles. But you look at the Packers defensively, they're 14-6. They've taken the ball away 14 times and only
Hmm.
given it away 6 times. As you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, he's only got 3 interceptions, so the other 3 are coming from fumbles. Offensively for the Kansas City Chiefs, we know that obviously if they don't beat themselves with interceptions, fumbles, basically just turnovers or penalties. Penalties has been a thing that they've been killing themselves with. Last week they had 12 penalties for 103 yards with this offense, Patrick Mahomes, doing what he does. You've got Derek Gore that played well and scored his first touchdown last week. But
Hmm.
Kelsey and Hill, Travis Kelsey last couple of weeks, he's had a lot of problems trying to, I guess, have big plays. It seems like the defenses are doubling up on him, being real physical with him. So he's been struggling.
Yeah.
What what do Travis Kelsey and Tyreek need to do to have big games, if possible, against the Packers? Because even though Tyreek Hill had 12 catches last week,
Hmm.
he only had it for 94 yards. The other 2 times he's had double-digit receptions.
All
Both of
right.
them were like 11 catches for 180 plus yards. Last week against the Giants, 12 for 93. So, I mean, how do they have big games against the Packers, if possible?
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned Tyreek Hill and having few catches and 96 yards. That's a big game for any other receiver.
Right.
But that just shows you how good he has been playing throughout the last 2.5 years and where they're at now as a team. So that just shows you the difference, the discrepancy, that either the defense is getting better or they might be in their own head, thinking about, games ahead instead of just taking it one game and one day at a time, staying with the teams in front of them. And sometimes players can get a little bit not say they getting complacent, but they just kind of get comfortable,
No, but
knowing.
but to your point, Chris Jones said that in the presser last week
Yeah,
after the game when we asked like why they've been struggling, he did say that that you can get caught up in looking ahead or whatever stuff like that, and
exactly.
not taking the team that you're facing, taking them seriously right then and there. So
Exactly, because they know at the end of the game, as you said, gunslinger Mahomes is going to get him out. He's going to scramble to the left or the right and then chuck it deep. And here's Tyreek Hill outrunning everybody like in Madden. He's the glitch in the game and get a big touchdown. But for Kelsey, like you said, what they need to do individually as players, Kelsey has to, just shake it off. He's a pro. He's been in the league quite a while now, so he understands when you're in a slump, what you do to get yourself out of slump, you just keep thinking positively and keep working in practice week over week to work on your technique, your fundamentals, catching the ball, looking the ball in. Because I saw a couple drops, and that's just frustration of him not getting the ball, or when he does get in the ball, he's getting the ball stripped out, or he's getting tackled immediately. He's not getting a chance to open run in space, because we know when he's in space, he's a problem. Defenders, linebackers can't keep up with him, and safeties and DBs can't tackle him because he's bigger than them. So now he's got to get back to that comfort zone, but he has to do it mentally in his head. He's like, okay, don't let the team, don't let me try to beat myself, and I got to beat that team. Let me just keep get out of my way and play football. And the same with Tyreek Hill. Just let the plays come to them. I know when I had times when I struggled, I just like, what? Let me just breathe and relax and let football come to me. It'll come to me if I got to, if it's just me picking up the blitz or catching a little flat route and gaining 5 yards. You know what? I did something. I made an effort. I did it. I contributed to that play right there, and it was a positive play. You know what? Let's stack on top of that and keep stacking on good plays, and that's how you get out of that rut.
I'm curious. The Chiefs this week they acquired Melvin Ingram in a trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, by way of the Los Angeles Chargers.
Hmm.
How does his addition to the team, when you have a mix of Chris Jones and Frank Clark and Jaron Reed on that defensive line, how does that help bolster, if at all, the Chiefs defense, which is pretty bad, statistically in the league, even though you've
Correct.
got Tyrann Matthews in the backfield, and of course you got a rookie in Nick Bolton, who was the AFC Defensive Rookie of the Month on this squad.
Yeah, you got Ingram. It bolsters that defense. You got a veteran who is a Pro Bowler and that knows how to play and that knows how to be a professional and come into a new program. I say a new play calling system, defensively wise, and he knows how to. He'll know how to adjust to that. And just when if he sticks to his being a professional and knowing, okay, this is my job. Well, this is what I've been traded here to do. Um, then it's going to be some significant, I say, gains in that defense because the defense has struggled and stopping teams in the pass and in the run. But if it's any game that's good where he's going to be that big factor, this could be the game because why? Aaron Rodgers is not in that game. It's going to be Jordan Love, a younger quarterback that can't read and can't dissect the defense pre-snap or even during when the ball snap on the run. So having a defender like Ingram who is fast off the edge that can defeat the one-on-one because that's what D line is all about, or outside linebackers when they're rushing, defeating that one-on-one, getting to that quarterback. That'll be a great tool. That it is going to be a great tool this weekend to have him to get in Jordan Love's face.
Keys to the game for both teams. For the keys to the game for the Packers to win this game, and the keys to the game in your opinion for Kansas City to pull out the win.
I'll start with KC to pull out the win. And it's going to be probably the same for both. I say offensively, get in the rhythm because that's the biggest thing that Mahomes knows that he can do with his pass game, and then mix in that run game like Eric Bieniemy has been doing along with Andy Reid. And then defensively for Kansas City, they got to slow teams down. They got to at least work on slowing them down to almost stopping them to not being complacent. Not saying they are complacent, but to getting that comfortable level, like you said, Chris Jones mentioned earlier in the presser. Don't get comfortable in saying, okay, Mahomes is going to bail us out. I think by now being 4-4, they know that's not the case. So go out there and win the game defensively. And for the Packers, being on the road, in a hostile environment, don't give the Kansas City Chiefs anything. So that means no turnovers. Let them learn. Let them earn the mistakes. So if they throw, get Jordan Love into an interception or a fumble, they caused it. Don't just give them the interception. Don't just fumble the ball on a quarterback exchange or a handoff to the running back exchange. Let them earn the mistakes out there. And then from also Jordan Love, when you're in the pocket, stand confident, stand tall, throw the plays. Hopefully, LaFleur, along with Hackett, has talked with Jordan Love. What are your plays that you like to run? What are your pass plays you like to throw? Give him that comfortable stuff, even though it might be a short pass to the flat, but that's what he likes to throw. Grow off of that. Okay, you like this flat pass, and you know what? We're gonna do a flat with a drag going across. So we're gonna do a screen with that flat, play. Find the stuff that he's comfortable with, because then he could get in a groove a lot smoother. And then defensively, for Green Bay Packers, you got all that speed still on Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers, so they're gonna catch the ball. So between the 20s, let them catch them balls. Let them gain on that yards, but in the red zone, that's where you tighten up the grips. So then you keep them out of the end zone. Let's hold them to a field goal or nothing. And so you have that game plan. You can slow them down and get that victory down in KC.
I will say this: my key to the game for Kansas, and I'll start with them. Offensively, obviously, you've got to play a clean ball game. I know turnovers. They don't have any turnovers. That's the biggest thing, because once they have that first turnover, whether it's an interception, a fumble, it's starting to mess with their head. They may not admit it,
Mhm.
but you can see it
Yeah.
in their play. Travis Kelce having that fumble in Monday night's game messed with him. The rest of the ball game. I would also say defensively, they've got to create turnovers. They've got to give themselves an opportunity to have extra possessions when you can capitalize on it. Now, granted, it did work in Monday's game when Patrick had the interception in the end zone, and then they turned around and Daniel Jones had an interception
Hmm.
to Willie Gay, and he took it back before the Chiefs scored a touchdown. So they need to continue that. They need to continue to get pressure. Again, like you mentioned, quarterback, not a lot of experience. In theory, you would pressure them. And even Steve Spagnuolo mentioned that we got to see whether or not they can actually do it and get to the quarterback. Because again, they've had problems with
Mhm.
quarterbacks who can run the ball effectively.
Yep.
So the key for me for the Green Bay Packers is allow Jordan Love if it's something if he goes through his progresses or whatever, or even if he doesn't, make sure you give him the confidence. Hey, give him the green light to run the football. Because again, knowing that
Mhm.
Kansas City has been getting beat at the line of scrimmage a lot, his legs might be his greatest asset at Arrowhead Stadium. And then also, of course, you don't want to have the turnovers, but I think the biggest key, which is what I want to kind of close with you on, is I know you played the Chiefs in 2003 when I know that was your best statistical season when you rushed for over 1,800 yards, and
Yep.
I know you all lost to the Chiefs
Yeah.
and
Oh my God, lost because of me. Well, I'm one
30.
of the reasons.
Well, I wasn't trying to bring that up. I know you
No,
lost 34-30 in
hey, I'm
overtime,
accountable. I hold myself accountable, and even 13, 15 years from the game.
but I did want to have you had a chance to play at Arrowhead.
Um, no. When
Okay,
I think back on I was a fan a few years ago to watch my nephew Niles Paul when he was playing for the Washington football team back in like 2017, 2016.
okay.
I was a fan, and it does get loud in there. I
Uh,
never really thought about it, but
and
my rookie year in Seattle, I played out there when I was a
Okay,
Seahawk.
and the reason why, because I want to ask how that would have an effect on Joe, because even though Aaron Rodgers isn't here, Chiefs fans still know how important this game is
Hmm.
for them to where they need to win this ball game. You know that the stadium is going to be loud, it's going to be rocking, it's going to be sold out. I know Packers are going to have fans here this weekend. I know Chiefs are going to be loud and boisterous. Um, how much of an issue will it be for Jordan Love dealing with the crowd because he's never been in the stadium? I don't even care in his college days. He's never been in a stadium as
No,
loud as what he's going to hear at Arrowhead on Sunday.
I'm pretty sure Matt LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett have had turned on the speakers in the Hudson Center in
Yeah,
Green
but it
Bay to
ain't the
work.
same. You know that.
Yeah, to simulate to get something close to what he may experience, but it will come into effect if the Packers get down. That crowd, obviously, they're gonna start. Everybody starts the game
Third
off
and
high,
long, yeah.
very high, and everybody's excited at the beginning of the game. But if later in the game goes and it starts to go Casey's way, then that's when that crowd is gonna become a factor for Jordan Love and that offense. And so, as I know, coaches, when we know we're going on the road, playing in a loud stadium, we worked on hand signals and we worked on those things that we know if we can't hear the snap count, we can't hear the play call, then we're gonna, work on something that we can, sign language in things. So they're gonna have that as a backup. I hope they better have a backup plan. So then if it gets, decibel loud, when it's a whatever that decibel is, that number where you can't hear nothing, you can't even hear your own voice talk in Arrowhead Stadium. When that happens, they better have a game plan for Jordan Love and that Packer offense.
So before we get out of there, let people know where they can, catch up with you, where they can find you on social media, and what you got going on.
Yeah, so like Darren said at the start, we're on Bleav Network. It's on my block and Green Bay Packer podcast. Myself, Ahman Green, and Mike Wall, and my teammate here in Green Bay. But then also I do another podcast. I'm also a gamer. If you see where I'm sitting at, I got video game. I'm a esports coach at Lakeland University in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So it is called Ahman Green's Gamers Lounge podcast. Wherever you download your podcast, you can upload it to iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we record once a week. So the podcast for this week is up. We had some great topics talking about things with Activision that's going on, game releases, and then fun conversation about recommendations on what's on stream because it's a lot of movies and TV shows on all these streaming apps that we have in the world and of streaming out there. So I do that as well. And then obviously, like I mentioned already, Coach here at Lakeland and my social media on IG is a Green 30, all one word on Twitter and Instagram.
Now, I'm not going to let you get at it because I wouldn't be doing my job. Your prediction on Sunday's game.
Ooh, I say my prediction. I say right now, I think the Chiefs, unfortunately, they get the win because of the. I mean, it's a big loss
Yeah.
to have the one of the best players in the game today and this season because he's on a MVP route right now. The way he's playing, along with his teammates. So, Chiefs get the win. It's going to be a close one. I'll say 24-20 in Arrowhead Stadium.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is just full disclosure. Before I knew about Aaron Rodgers, we do a Chief show on Mondays or the following Tuesday after the game, and Tuesday I had the Packers winning 38-24 because I'm like the Chiefs play like this against an Aaron Rodgers led team. there's no way that they're getting out with a win. But of course, Aaron Rodgers does make a big difference in his absence. But here's the thing, I mean, this is also a time where the Packers can rally around Jordan Love and play their best ball game of the season, even better than what they did against the Arizona Cardinals. I do think it's a close ball game. Because they don't have Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to have the Chiefs win this again. I had them initially losing 38-24, but because they're
Mhm.
without Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to have them winning 28-20. And again, and I still think it could go down to the wire because
Good.
if Jordan Love just plays mistake-free football,
Yes,
that could be an issue for Kansas City. So, uh,
definitely.
Brother Green, I really appreciate you joining me, and hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future. Whether we're talking about the playoffs or anything else,
Yes,
hopefully
for
we can
sure.
get you, get you back on here, or vice versa. So make sure you follow Ahman Green. Of course, you can go to Bleav.com and pull up his podcast, Ahman Green, Bleav in Packers with Ahman Green and Mike Wall. So, of course, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, download, Bleav in Kansas City Sports with Darren Smith. And we'll be back next week. I'll be live from Las Vegas as we get ready to
Nice.
take care of the radio. So, Ahmad, thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Hey, you're welcome, Darren. Appreciate